There is a quiet, systematic purge happening across corporate America right now, and it is entirely by design. It is a phenomenon that nobody is allowed to talk about on LinkedIn. Human resources departments will vehemently deny it exists, hiding behind corporate jargon and carefully crafted diversity statements. But if you are a man over the age of 50, you don't need a memo to tell you it's happening. You have already felt it. You have felt the sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature in the office. You have noticed the subtle, almost imperceptible way the dynamic of a room shifts the moment you walk in. You have seen the way your decades of hard-won, battle-tested experience are suddenly being reframed by younger management, not as an invaluable asset, but as a rigid liability. You might be sitting there right now, telling yourself that it's just the current economy. You might be rationalizing that the company is just going through a temporary restructuring phase, or that you simply need to learn that new, redundant software system to get back into the executive's good graces. I need you to stop gaslighting yourself right now. The rules of the corporate game haven't just changed. The entire board has been flipped over and replaced. Companies do not want older men anymore. And today, I am going to show you exactly what is happening behind the frosted glass of those executive boardrooms. We are going to break down how the institutional machinery is actively, meticulously working against you, and most importantly, how you can reclaim your power, your dignity, and your financial security before they hand you a cardboard box and a severance agreement designed to buy your silence. To truly understand what is happening to you, we first have to examine the architecture of the modern corporate machine. For the last 40 or 50 years, the unwritten social contract of American business was incredibly straightforward. It went something like this. You give the company your youth, your energy, your late nights, and your absolute loyalty. In return, as you age, you ascend the hierarchy. You are compensated for your wisdom. You transition into the senior statesman of your department. The man who knows where the bodies are buried, the man who knows how to navigate a catastrophic supply chain failure or a market crash, because he has already survived 3 of them. You were the anchor. That contract has been torn to shreds and burned. Today, we are operating in the brutal era of private equity, algorithmic management, and a hyper-obsessive focus on quarterly earnings that borders on the pathological. In this new sterilized ecosystem, you are no longer viewed as a human being with institutional memory. You are viewed exclusively as a line item on an Excel spreadsheet. And if you are a man in your late 50s or early 60s, you are by far the most expensive line item in your entire division. Let's look at the raw mathematics, because I promise you, the people running your company already have. You have the highest base salary. You have the maximum 401k match. You are accumulating the most paid time off. And critically, you have the most expensive family healthcare premiums in the company. From a purely mathematical, sociopathic standpoint, a 28-year-old financial analyst sitting in a glass office 3 time zones away has already run the numbers. They have figured out that they can fire you, hire 2 25-year-olds for a fraction of your total compensation, and still have enough money left over to significantly boost the executive bonus pool at the end of the fiscal year. But there is a catch. They can't just fire you because of your age. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act makes that explicitly illegal, and corporate lawyers are terrified of messy public lawsuits that expose their internal practices. So, what do? They don't fire you, they manage you out. They initiate a slow, grinding psychological campaign designed to make you feel obsolete, incompetent, and isolated, forcing you to either quit in sheer frustration or giving them enough documented, fabricated cause to terminate you cleanly. This brings us to the core truth that most older men fail to realize until it is far too late. The modern corporation does not actually value experience anymore. They value compliance. Let that sink in for a moment. Experience is inherently dangerous to modern management structures. Why? Because a man with 30 years of experience has a finely tuned, highly accurate radar for nonsense. If you have spent 3 decades in an industry, You know exactly when a new, flashy strategy engineered by a consulting firm is fundamentally doomed to fail. You know when a charismatic new vice president is selling snake oil to the shareholders. You know when a sweeping cost-cutting measure is actually going to destroy the core quality of the product and alienate the customer base. And more importantly, as an older man, you have the confidence, the financial stability, and the psychological grounding to stand up in a strategy meeting and say, "No, that isn't going to work. We tried that in 2008, and here is exactly why it will fail." 15 years ago, that kind of pushback was called leadership. It was called protecting the company. Today, it is called insubordination. It is labelled by human resources as being resistant to change, inflexible, or lacking digital agility. The young executives running these companies do not want a senior statesman telling them why their visionary ideas are fundamentally flawed. They want unquestioning, behavioural compliance. They want young, deeply indebted, hungry employees who will work 70-hour weeks without asking a single question, simply because they do not have the baseline life experience to know that they are being ruthlessly exploited. Your wisdom is not a tool they want to utilise. It is a direct obstacle to their absolute authority. Watch how this plays out in real time. It always starts with the language. The corporate machinery loves to weaponize vocabulary to disguise discrimination. Suddenly, the phrase culture fit starts appearing in your performance reviews. Culture fit is arguably the most dangerous and insidious phrase in modern business. It is a completely subjective, unmeasurable metric that essentially means you don't act like a subservient 30-year-old. You don't use our corporate buzzwords, and your presence makes the younger managers uncomfortable. They will tell you that you lack agility. They will implement new, entirely redundant software systems, not because those systems are actually better or more efficient, but because they act as a generational filter. When you inevitably ask for a standard training session on the new system, they don't see a dedicated veteran employee trying to adapt. They see a golden opportunity to document a skills gap in your HR file. I want to tell you about a man named Thomas. Thomas is 58 years old, a senior systems engineer at a mid-sized tech firm. For 20 years, Thomas was the guy who kept the servers running when everything else crashed. He built the foundational architecture of their flagship product. 18 months ago, the company was acquired by a venture capital group. Almost immediately, Thomas was asked to start documenting his daily workflows. Management called it knowledge transfer and building redundancies for operational security. Then they hired a 24-year-old recent graduate and assigned him to shadow Thomas. Thomas was told to mentor the young man. For 6 months, Thomas poured his heart into training this kid, teaching him the undocumented quirks of the system, the workarounds, the things you only learn by failing in the real world. The very week the knowledge transfer was completed, Thomas was called into a surprise 4 p.m. Friday meeting. Human Resources was already on the Zoom call. They told him his role was being eliminated due to a strategic realignment. They had used Thomas to train his own, significantly cheaper replacement, and the moment they extracted his institutional knowledge, they discarded him. Thomas told me, the betrayal wasn't that they fired me. The betrayal was that they made me dig my own grave and smile while I was doing it. They made me believe I was leaving a legacy, when really I was just handing over the keys to the car before they pushed me out into the street. And this leads to the most devastating aspect of this entire playbook, the psychological warfare. There is a deep, profound psychological toll that comes with this kind of systemic erasure. As men, particularly men of a certain generation, so much of our identity, our purpose, and our intrinsic sense of value is tied directly to our utility. We are providers, we are problem solvers, we fix things. When a massive institution systematically strips you of your ability to solve problems, when they deliberately put you on the bench while the game is being played right in front of you, it creates a crushing sense of isolation. You start bringing that stress home. You find yourself staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., your heart racing, running through every conversation from the day, wondering if you actually are becoming a dinosaur. You start wondering if the world really has passed you by. You snap at your wife. You withdraw from your friends, because how do you explain to them that the company you gave the best years of your life to is now treating you like a contagious disease? I need you to hear this, and I need you to let it echo in your mind. The world has not passed you by. You have not lost your edge. You are being subjected to a calculated, highly structured corporate strategy designed to separate you from your paycheck. It has absolutely nothing to do with your intrinsic value as a man or a professional, and it has everything to do with their profit margins and their desire for unquestioned control. So, what do? How do you fight back against a machine that controls the board, writes the rules, and owns the referees? First, you stop playing their game by their rules, the exact moment you realize you are being managed out. When the meetings start happening without you, when the young manager starts questioning your tone instead of your results, you must fundamentally shift your mindset. You are no longer a loyal employee trying to win the approval of your boss. You are an independent contractor operating behind enemy lines, and your sole objective is to gather intelligence to protect your own future. You must document everything, and I mean everything. Forward crucial communications, performance metrics, and project successes to a personal server, or print them out. Do not keep them exclusively on the company laptop, because the moment they decide to terminate you, your screen will go black and your access will be revoked before you even stand up from the chair. If a younger manager dismisses your valid, data-driven concerns or makes a subtly ageist remark in a closed-door one-on-one meeting, do not let it vanish into the air. Follow up immediately with an email that says, "Just to recap our conversation today regarding the Q3 strategy, I noted your comments about needing a younger perspective on this account." Create a paper trail so dense, so meticulously detailed, that when they finally bring the folder to the table, their legal department takes one look at your file and becomes terrified to fire you, without offering a massive, ironclad severance package to make you go away quietly. Second, if you do get called into that room, do not sign a single piece of paper. Human resources will try to pressure you. They will tell you the severance offer is only valid for 48 hours. They will try to manufacture a sense of panic. Do not fall for it. Under the Older Workers Benefit Protection Act, if you are over 40, you are federally mandated to have 21 days to review a severance agreement, and 45 days if it is part of a group layoff. Furthermore, you have a 7-day window to revoke your signature even after you sign. They know this, but they hope you don't. Take the paperwork, stand up, look them in the eye, and say, "I will have my attorney review this," and walk out. The shift in the power dynamic in that room will be palpable. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you have to recognize the true, unvarnished value of your institutional knowledge out in the open market. The company you currently work for might not want to pay your salary, but the broader economy desperately needs what you know. There are massive, gaping holes in the American economy right now, precisely because an entire generation of seasoned, battle-hardened professionals is being pushed out, leaving major corporations entirely in the hands of academic theorists who have never actually built anything with their own two hands. They know how to read a dashboard, but they don't know how to fix the engine. Your 30 years of experience, your deep industry network, your ability to read a room, your crisis management skills, your intuition, these are highly monetizable assets. I have watched countless men take the severance package they forced the company to provide, walk out the door, take a month to decompress, and immediately pivot into consulting. They end up selling the exact same expertise back to their old industry, and sometimes even to their former competitors, often at twice their previous hourly rate. They set their own hours. They don't deal with HR performance reviews. They don't deal with culture fit assessments. They answer to absolutely no one but themselves. Finally, you must detach your self-worth from the corporate logo printed on your ID badge. The company is not your family. It never was your family. It is, and always has been, a cold financial transaction. They are currently trying to renegotiate the terms of that transaction in a way that deeply harms you. Once you step back and see the cold, mechanical reality of the situation for what it is, the emotional weight begins to lift. You stop feeling rejected, and you start feeling strategic. You stop being the victim, and you become the architect of your exit. You survived the dot-com bubble bursting. You survived the brutal devastation of the 2008 financial crisis. You survived decades of relentless, grinding pressure to get to where you are today. You provided for your family. You put roofs over heads. You are a survivor. A temporary change in the corporate weather, engineered by people half your age, is not going to break you unless you allow them to convince you that it's raining when they are actually just spitting in your face. Take a hard, honest look at your current reality tomorrow morning when you log on or walk into the office. If you are experiencing the freeze-out, if your training budget has vanished, if you are being buried in meaningless buzzwords and managed by someone who hasn't lived long enough to understand the catastrophic consequences of their own actions, it is time to wake up. Stop hoping the company will remember your loyalty. They won't. Start planning your exit on your own terms. Gather your evidence. Protect your finances. Take your immense wisdom. Take your dignity. And walk out of that building to go build the next chapter where your power is actually respected, and your experience is treated like the gold it truly is. If you are a man who has lived through this, if you have been handed that box, or if you are currently in the middle of this exact silent battle, I want you to share your story in the comments below. The corporate machinery relies entirely on your shame and your silence to keep this system running. The most powerful weapon we have against them is our shared truth. When you speak up, when you share the tactics they used against you, you show another man that he is not crazy, he is not obsolete, and he is absolutely not alone.